30 seconds. We're just gonna unload this waiting room and we'll start. All right, let's do it. All right, good evening, folks. Welcome to our second pre-camp meeting before the 2022 season. This is not a normal meeting for us. This is going to be heavy on program. We normally do our meeting in February, then we do 10 days before you arrive at camp. This year, there are still questions floating around about the pandemic or the endemic and COVID. So we want to talk briefly about that later on, but we also want to reconnect with all the troops about questions around operations, how we'll check into camp, and a little bit about the process this year. So we thought it was a great time to get together. We're going to try to keep this to a 30-minute meeting, 35-minute meeting. We're going to rock and roll through it. We have a chat master, Grace Audette. She's out there. She will be getting your chats and she'll be organizing them so we can answer all your questions. We want you to leave tonight with a good feeling about the summer 2022 season. Keep in mind that what you're looking at is you have teachers who are full-time teachers who are summer camp full-time staff. So if we don't get back to you as quick as we should, we're sorry, but we are starting the process of transitioning from teaching to full camp. So it should be getting better. But let's roll. A few housekeeping items. The leader's guide, we're going to drop a link to that in the chat. You have it. It's on the website, but we also want to drop a link in there. Share this with everyone. It has lots of information. My name is Danny Megan. I'm the camp director. To my right in the photo is Andy Collins. He is the assistant camp director. Will Neville is coordinating, and he'll be talking all about program. And Rachel, the assistant program director. Rachel, pronounce your last name for us.
No problem. Schreivogel.
And Rachel's newly married since last summer, and she's a special ed teacher in Ohio. And we are so lucky to have her back. Also joining us tonight, we have Grace Audette. She's a sophomore at WPI. And then we have nurse Rebecca Lantry. Becky, where are you? Oh, she might be out there. We'll unmute her in a bit. We have Becky Lantry, who will be our 13 years with us as a nurse. She retired for a while, but she is back as Director of Health Services. And we have Reagan Sanborn, who is heading to work at 8:30 for a shift. We are so lucky to have her. She has 2 sisters on staff too, so we'll have 3 sisters on staff. She is a new grad from Norwich University at BSN, and we are so lucky to have her. And so Reagan, say hello to everyone. You're gonna have a great summer.
Hi, everyone. Excited to be there.
Yeah, it's going to be great. So we have 2 nurses. Many weeks we'll have 2, some weeks we'll have 1, but we'll always have 1. Most of the time 2, with them coming and going interviews and a couple weeks off here and there. But that's our plan with that. Will, let's go to the next one. Will Neville's in Seattle, and he is doing very well. He's got a touch of COVID right now, but he is bouncing back even after a major organ transplant last year. He's beating COVID. He's 5-6 days in, so he'll be fine in a couple of days. So we got Will, Rachel, let's keep going. We'll hear a lot from Will in a bit. All right, take it away, Will. Program.
Hi, all. So if you were here in February or if you've been with us at camp in the past, some of this is going to be not new to you, but I know we have a lot of new troops, a lot of new units. So we just want to make sure we hit on everything again, especially after last year when we had some changes. First off is the return of field trips. Last year we had to rely heavily on virtual field trips, which while they meet BSA requirements and while they serve a purpose, I don't love. I would much rather that hands-on tactical version, our tactile version of a field trip. So once again, we'll be going back to the fire department, back to one of the farms down the road, and then also to the, cemetery in the middle of town and somewhere for art merit badge as well. We're also gonna be bringing back some of our food programs that we had to forego last year. That includes Ice Cream Glaciers and Iron Chef. As Andy said in one of our staff chats. If Netflix can do it, so can we. So we are bringing back Iron Chef. Rachel, do you want to talk about first choice merit badges and how we ensure everybody gets that?
Yeah, sure. So we guarantee that every scout that comes gets their first choice merit badge. So what they will do is they'll fill out their merit badge selection. You can either send that in prior to coming to camp or bring it with you the Sunday at camp. And the scout will list their first 3 choices, and they may not get their choice in that specific period, as we like to even out the class sizes, but they will get the first 3 merit badges they choose for each period.
Sorry, guys, 1 minute. I keep going in the wrong direction on my slides. One thing I want to mention about so the merit badges here is we have our 3 periods of structured merit badge time, 9 a.m., 10 a.m., and then also 2 p.m. Then we also have a lot of free time merit badges, and free time is what happens from 3 o'clock to 5:30. So Grace, if you could drop in the chat the merit badge grid. At the bottom of this document, you all will see a list of merit badges that are offered during free time. They can be mammal studies, fingerprinting. There's a lot of options. And those are the merit badges that scouts can take at any time. And they're also merit badges that we do not register for in advance. So the merit badges at 9, 10, and 2 are all first choice, guaranteed, you registered in advance. Free time merit badges, we also do guaranteed. Any scout who wants to take one of these badges can take it, but you don't register in advance. You just show up day of. If there is extraordinary demand for a badge, say fire safety or mammal studies, we will run more than 1 session. So if mammal studies is supposed to be here at, it's supposed to be on Mondays at 4, and 70 kids show up, we might run it again Wednesdays and Thursdays, just so that everybody gets that opportunity. If you have more questions about program selection or merit badge selection, please let us know.
Will, sometimes we refer to those as bonus badges, correct?
Yeah, bonus badges, free time badges. In the
And
bottom of that document that Grace just put out, you should see it should say, I believe it says bonus badges actually.
And everything we're dropping in the chat is from the leader's guide. We're just pointing it out. So if you don't want to go to the chat, it's all in the leader's guide. All right, that's good. Keep going.
Program supplementals. These are just 2 documents that we created a few years ago to highlight programs for specific age groups. Why do we highlight these specifically? Because age-appropriate programming is a really important part of what we do. There are some things that are not appropriate for first-year campers. There are some things that are specifically designed for them. And I don't want a scout's week at camp to be marred by them being signed up for something that is not appropriate for them. Having a scout who is 11 years old in a communications merit badge with a bunch of 16-year-olds is not going to be the best experience we can offer them at Camp Wanocksett. So we created these to highlight the best programs for those scouts. Rachel, anything that I missed on those?
I don't think so, no.
Oh, this is some of this is operations, but I'll take some of it too. In February, last time we met earlier this spring, we still needed quite a bit of staff, quite a bit of key staff. But fortunately for us, you already met Reagan. We hired her as a nurse. We have a rifle director. We have an assistant dining hall director, and we have our kitchen staff fully staffed as well. And that's just something we're really excited about. As a big weight off Dan and mine's shoulders at this time of our year. Rachel, you take this one?
Yeah, definitely. So as adult leaders at camp, there's many ways that you guys can give back. One of some of the biggest ones is merit badge guest speaking. Every week we look for adults in certain career fields or from certain backgrounds that are able to give some of their time to merit badge classes to speak of their experience. So what we're looking for is someone that's a chemist, someone that is employed as a game designer, and then someone who was born in a different country. And then we're also looking for drivers for all of our field trips, as well as people for boats and drivers for the triathlon every week, as well as the Sunset Summit and the Mile Swim adult volunteers. And if you would like to give back even further, we have service projects that you can take part of, just depending on the needs we have at camp at the time.
I'll take this one. So I spoke with Adam just the other day. Adam's our CIT director. He is just about finishing up his doctorate. He's excited about camp. He'll be Dr. Morse when he gets to camp, hopefully. But we have 28 CITs, 21 male CITs, 7 female CITs. We'd love to bump that number up to 35, 40. So if you still have scouts who are in your troop, who are first class 14 or 15, must be 14 or 15, and first class, shoot me or Will or the CIT director. Maybe we can drop the CIT director's email in the chat. There's a specific CIT director email we can drop in, which goes right to Adam Morse. But we still will take applications for CITs for the summer of 2022. CITs are super important. They are the future staff, and the future folks will be area directors and camp directors and program directors and take over. Let's continue. Thank you for dropping that in, Grace. CIT director. Email is in the chat. Andy is the master of everything to do with medical forms, and he's the detail person. Andy, will you take this one?
Sure thing. So the medical form is posted. It is a combination of the medical form from National BSA along with 2 different parts, Part Ds. One is for New Hampshire, one is for Massachusetts. If you're coming to Camp Wanocksett, you only need to worry about the Part D for New Hampshire. If it applies to you, it's only for scouts who have an EpiPen or an inhaler. It's basically doctor's orders on steroids for those 2 items. If the scout does not have an EpiPen or an inhaler, you do not need to worry about Part D at all. You just need to worry about the standard BSA med form for parts A, B, and C. It is the same form for 2022 as last year. Again, it's on our website. The forms are good, much like your car inspection sticker, until the end of the 12th calendar month. Obviously, there's going to be a couple of weeks this year where the month changes, and admittedly so, much like my car inspection sticker expired last month and I got it today. We can figure out some workaround if you're in one of those weeks where your medical form might be expiring midweek. There is a page of common medical form challenges that we use as a cover sheet for our medical form. Please share that with your parents. If you're a summer camp coordinator, please use that to try to filter through any challenges, right? Look for those dates, look for those signatures, look for missing immunizations. There continues to be a pediatrics office in North Central Mass that does not put a doctor's signature or a date of the physical. So double check that kind of stuff. Look, tetanus, the tetanus is usually the biggest thing, where it expires every decade. The BSA and New Hampshire do not require a COVID vaccine. It's highly recommended. Obviously, we're going to be in an institutional setting, but it is not required. If you have a copy, include the copy of the card, or if it's on your pediatric record, include that when the printout on all the immunizations. And if there is anybody who has an immunization exemption, there's a process for that the state of New Hampshire outlines. They can contact either myself or they can contact info@campwanocksett.org, and we'll get the appropriate paperwork over to the unit leader to share with the parents. And we'll go over a couple of dates on med forms in just a little bit. Will? Danny, you want to get this one?
Sure. I mean, you know all these prices. One quick thing, I got an email earlier tonight. A troop is, if you are bringing a Weeblo that crosses over and they just joined your troop, of course, we're going to give them the early bird because they weren't in your troop at the time of the early bird. So when you get to camp, if you need to add Weeblos, you'll meet with Andy Collins and, or his designee if there's a second person that week, and you'll say, I have 2 Weeblo crossovers, and we will give them the early bird. Andy, there must be a slide coming up about the financial data submission form, hopefully in the next one that we'll talk about.
Yeah, I think there is. Danny just referenced the financial submission form. It's the last page of the Leader's Guide has some quick, useful links for a bunch of different forms, including the financial submission guide, submission form. Please include that when you're sending any checks to the Council Service Center, or if you mail it to camp. In just a little bit, you'll see that we transition everything to the camp office in Dublin in about a week. So as you start sending those payments up to camp, it's helpful for us if something is in there. We have this form that just helps communicate what the check is for. We have the same standard ratio that we've had for years for free adults included based on the number of scouts in your unit that's coming to camp. You get 2 free adults up to 20 kids, and then another adult for every part of 10 thereof after that. Over and above that, there is a $150 per extra adult fee. But please, we always round in your favor. If you have an adult who's switch hitting throughout the week, someone's coming in Sunday to Tuesday, and then someone's coming Tuesday to Saturday, we're going to count them as 1 adult. We're not going to count them as 2 adults. So yeah, Will. We started this last year, virtual pre-camp check-in. It worked really well. I'll be very honest. It sped up your time, your ability to get to your campsite on Sunday when you get to camp. You do most of your check-in online with me on a Zoom call. It takes about 15-20 minutes. We go through all the financials. We talk about things that you need to prepare and have ready for camp for when you get here. We go over everything that you would normally do in the office, and it affords you the ability to come to the office, speak to any of the administrators and say, I did the pre-camp check-in with Andy. Here's all of the stuff. They'll just double check it. They'll give you the name badges, the flag, the program folder. We'll do a quick update to make sure all the kids are actually in camp. And then it gets you to your campsite as quick as possible. So I really highly encourage that you take advantage of that. We'll do signups week by week. So at each of the pre-camp meetings, the 10-day out meeting, we will give the folks in attendance at that meeting access to sign up for a pre-camp check-in. Week 1, obviously, that's not a lot of time. We will get you that link for the week 1 unit leaders a full 10 days out. So I believe that's going to be next week. At some point, we'll get that link out to you so that you can sign up for your pre-camp check-in if you want it. This is totally optional, but again, it does afford you more time during the check-in process and to get to your campsite and start to nest your tent.
So that
Here's some of
campership.
those. Oh, go ahead, Danny.
All right, that campership deadline is passed, but I'm continuing to respond to emails. If you have a scout that's having a financial challenge, apply for the campership. And don't worry about the date, apply, and we'll work through the process together. CIT application, that's passed, but shoot Adam an email and let's get those CITs to apply. We'll still take them. If you have not sent your payment, please, there are 28 troops that I think are coming to camp that have sent 0 payments. In the near future, let us know how many are coming and send a payment using the proper financial submission form. Andy, can I be a drag for you? Will you drop that form in the chat just to make sure, because we have a whole bunch of new troops. A little bit of numbers. We have 127 troops coming to Camp Wanocksett this year. I believe, Andy, is this high or low? About 25 of those are new troops. Yes? Yeah, that's about right. 25 brand new troops coming to Camp Wanocksett. That's another reason we're doing tonight's meeting. So please see the financial submission form and submit that with your payments. And if a scout decides not to come, wait until you get to camp, and then we will process a refund, because what may happen is you may have one not going, but then you add one later, and then you want to add pizza and photos. Money's going to be going lots of different directions. This is wait. Once you send your payment, wait till you get to camp, and we'll refund whatever we need to refund, and we'll settle up with you and make sure that you're whole. Collins, do you agree with that? Okay. All right, let's keep going, Will. All right, this is very important. I've been working with the nurse on this. Andy, will you take the first one about the New Hampshire third-party check and all of that?
Sure thing. And I'm just pulling up that link you asked me to send, so I'll drop that in the chat as soon as I pass it over to you again. So 30 days out from your arrival, for some of you, this 30 days is come and gone. So if you haven't done this yet, you should really do this ASAP. You want to make sure that everyone coming to camp, kids and adults, are registered members of your unit. We're going to be asking when you come through check-in to provide us a copy of your MyDOT scouting roster that shows all the adults and the kids are registered in your unit. It shows they're registered if they're on the roster and they have a BSA ID number. For the youth, it's really for insurance purposes. Should any challenges occur. For adults, it's the background check. We need to show up on that. That is a New Hampshire requirement. Additionally, the second item there, the New Hampshire DCYF third-party check, that is a New Hampshire requirement. It is only applicable in a couple of situations. One, if you are a current New Hampshire resident. These are for adults. So if you currently live in the state of New Hampshire, you have to have this completed. The other situation that it applies is if you have at any time in the last 7 years lived in New Hampshire. It does not include living at college. It does not include your week at camp from previous years. It's only if you are a resident of New Hampshire at all in the last 7 years. Vacation homes don't count either. That form is a paper form. There's no electronic way to complete that check. You have to print it out. You have to have it notarized and submit it to New Hampshire DCYF, and they will return the results to you. And you then provide that result document to us at check-in. There's no way for those results to be given directly to us from the state. So that form, I'll grab that link for the New Hampshire third-party release. I'll drop that in the chat, and I'll also be dropping the financial submission form Danny asked me to. Back to you, Danny.
All right, so Nurse Becky, when she agreed to come on with us this year, she had a whole bunch of ideas that would make camp better for check-in and for the nurse and how the nurse operates the health lodge. And one of the things we came up with is 14 days before you arrive at camp, we should get a nice white or manila envelope with all of your medical forms, and it should be a copy because we must keep them. So if you are coming to camp week 1, your medical forms in theory should be in the mail in the next, few days or so. What's going to happen is they're all going to go to camp. All medical forms go to camp. They go to camp. They go to camp. They don't go to council. They go to camp. They're going to go to camp, and Nurse Becky's going to sit up there in the shade of the trees by the Thorndike, and she's going to churn through week 1's medical forms and do a lot of pre-work. So when you arrive, it's as smooth as possible. So medical forms copies should go to camp. Now, if you have 14 out of the 16 forms, don't wait for those last 2, send them and bring the last 2 forms when you arrive. And you might get a little bit of a blowback from the nurse, but it's better than waiting with all 16 medical forms. Because if you arrive at camp and we have not seen your medical forms, it's not personal, but you're going to go in the back of the line. And you're going to end up getting the nurses after they check in 200 campers and 55 adults. And it's not always pretty. It's a very stressful Sunday. We're going to do the best we can to make it smooth for you. But it's something that the state of New Hampshire makes us do. The Boy Scouts make us do it. So please, medical forms to camp 14 days before you arrive. They must be copies because we have to keep them. All right, let's keep going. Collins, take the 10 days. Go back on that one, Will. I thought there was one more there.
Yeah, so 10 days out is your pre-camp meeting. It's going to be on that Wednesday night. I believe, Danny, correct me if I'm wrong, we're going to be offering that available via Zoom.
Yes.
It was a big request last year. So we'll have your pre-camp meeting. You'll find out all about check-in and any operations and program updates at that point. And we'll also open up the ability for you to sign up for that virtual pre-camp check-in. And then we recommend that you do that check-in in the 7 to 3 days before you arrive. So don't do it too early. We have seen, kids join, kids leave. You have refunds going back and forth. So the closer you can do to camp, the better with that. Well, when you do come to camp, this is the stuff, and there is a checklist in the leader's guide early on, all these dates and this checklist here. This is the stuff that you as a unit leader should have, ready to go, signed, sealed, delivered. Your check-in at camp will be really smooth, and you'll get to your campsite a lot quicker if you have things like a final unit roster, merit badge registration updates for Will and his team. Signed financial documents, which if you do the pre-check, I'll email those to you. If you do it in the office, I'll print them out there in the office for you. That MyDot scouting roster can sometimes be a challenge, right? Oftentimes the unit leader checking in is not the unit leader in the unit, and they don't have access to that roster, and you get to camp and you go through check-in and, oh, we forgot the roster. Okay, cool. Here's my computer, log into MyDot scouting. Oh, I don't have access to that. So again, make sure you have this stuff, ready to go. Those New Hampshire third-party check forms printed out, and then count and the check for the unit photo order. You have all that stuff, together. Your check-in in the office, if you did the pre-camp check-in online, is probably a 4-minute stop on your tour. If you come into the office, you don't do it ahead of time, it's maybe a 15-minute stop in my office.
All right. So when you arrive at camp, we'll talk more about the nitty-gritty at the pre-camp meeting 10 days before your arrival. But I believe we'll probably be doing something similar to last year, not because we want to separate folks in the parking lot as much as before, but it worked quite well. Some troops will be authorized to go directly to their sites and start to nest. And then some troops will enter the parking lot machine and the health office, and then we'll kind of switch around. That worked out very well last year, but we'll talk more about that at the pre-camp meeting, or the pre-camp meeting, I should say. Let's keep going. What's this one, Collins? Or Will, whose is this? This is you, Collins.
Yeah, so everyone here is probably already a unit coordinator attending camp. Will sent out the email for this meeting to everyone who's a registered unit leader in our system. If you got it from someone in your unit and you are the person actually coming to camp and you want all the information of pre-camp meeting and stuff like that, email us info@camp-wanocksett.org. We can update that contact for you so that you're getting it. As a reminder for everyone on this call, all of the payments for camp go through your unit. Your unit is the one that's submitting the payment to us. Families should not be paying us directly. Obviously, if there's one kid you're adding on that Sunday and the check comes from the parent, that's one thing. But we don't like to, it's a lot if all of a sudden we're getting 15, 20 checks from a unit. So the families pay you and you pay us. And part of the reason for that too is any refunds you can handle internally. It happens at least once a week where a family paid for camp early on, like maybe before early bird, and then between early bird and the time you get to camp, that family has to back out. But you've also had another family add on, and so for us as a camp, it's a wash. There's no change of hands of money. You've paid for so many slots at that rate. You can handle the refund internally within your unit. If there is a refund at the end of the camp season, at the end of your week of camp, that refund goes back to you. And it is something that Danny and I have discussed recently. We're getting refund requests from parents. Those refund requests really should go through that unit leader, because we don't want to be refunding to that unit and then all of a sudden we have that situation where somebody else in the troop is coming now. So if you have a family that has to request a refund, you should first have them work with you in your unit. And then if there is a reason for you to contact us to request a refund for a scout, at this point, we typically wait until your check-in at camp because there may be additional fees with unit leaders, or, you might roll your campsite deposit over, you might not. And so we do that financial check-in at camp. We wait at camp for a reason. And then if that refund comes out, it's coming to the unit. It's not going to the individual families. And again, that financial submission form I dropped in the chat earlier, please utilize that as best as you can so we can track those payments. One thing I do want to add on that is if you have a linked unit, and it's great to see so many linked units coming to camp, on our end, we have to keep the two units separate in our registration system because we have to report those numbers separately to national at the end of the camping season. So if you could help us out, if you do have a linked unit and you're sending one check-in, you can include 2 copies of that financial form, like one for the boys and one for the girls. That way we can differentiate where the payments should go. That would help us out.
All right, let's keep going.
All right, so that drop dead date, June 15th, That's not that long away. Everything's going to get moved from Rutland to Dublin. So you can continue to send mail to the office in Rutland until the 15th. Put attention Kelly Stickney on it. That way she gets it. She'll put the payments into the system. She'll process the checks and whatnot. After June 15th, send everything up to the camp office in Dublin. The unit roster and merit badge signups, again, there's links to both the paper forms and the digital, the Google spreadsheet option that we created a couple of years ago to sign up for both the merit badge signups and your unit roster. You can do either of those. You can even do something different. If you have your own, your own unit template you can share with us, that's fine too, as long as it has all the same information. And then again, make sure you attend that pre-camp meeting. Mail those copies of the forms or drop them off at camp before your pre-camp meeting. That way we can get the nurses through them and they can get you that report at the pre-camp meeting.
That's a good point. For the 25 troops that are new, Becky and Nurse Reagan are going to go through the medical forms. They're going to find problems. They're going to put together a report. We're going to give that report to you at the Wednesday. That's hopefully a week and a half before your week. For week 1, I think it's the Wednesday before. The idea is that you'll make some changes. You'll get some new information. You'll get some updated tetanus shots. And then when you arrive at camp, much of it will be fixed. We will work with you, especially week 1, but the other weeks, the machine should be rolling. And you also can have an internal person checking it. If somebody in your troop wants to go through and make sure the signatures are there, that is a good thing to do. But we're getting close to the end of this meeting, but I want to talk about COVID. Did you want to go to the next one? Let's make sure that Becky's here unmuted. So I thought I just saw a COVID slide. Yes. So our general plan this year is to use some of the stuff that we learned from last year. The health lodge will have hundreds of tests. So if somebody has symptoms, we can test them. One of the differences, though, is if the bunkmate of the person who gets tested, the bunkmate does not need to go home. We'll just monitor the bunkmate. And if the person tests positive, we'll call home, we'll send them home. We'll get them up later in the season to finish their week, but we won't have to send home other folks who drove up to camp with them. And so there's a little bit more flexibility there with test and stay. We'll monitor, we might test the bunkmate. Most of our activities are outside. We're going to eat in the dining hall as a cohort. So eat with the folks that you stay with in your campsite. And so the idea is that we'll be by cohorts for much of the program, but we'll wash our hands. Adults will continue to serve the food like last year, and we will shower and we will swim in the Thorndike and we will have an incredible summer. But testing will be available at the Health Lodge for those scouts and adults who might have symptoms. Nurse Becky, are you here?
I am here.
How did I do on that?
You did fine.
Okay. Anything you want to add,
Yeah.
Nurse Rebecca Landry, Director of Health Services?
So basically the same thing, just that, if I see somebody, they've got symptoms and everything else, I'm going to be testing them. The only difference that I can say is that from data and research is that if you've got a fever, you've got cold symptoms, you've got the sore throat, and my test says you're negative, it could most likely be because the variants are not as sensitive to the test. They haven't changed that. So I'm going to tell you, I might have some wiggle worm. I might just say, I don't like it, and I may want to send you home anyway.
Right, but in fairness,
mistaken.
Becky, in fairness to COVID, in the past, if someone had a temperature, we would not send them back to Gen Pop. We would typically send them home and say, come back later in the season. We don't want folks,
Right.
we don't want a repeat of 99 with the
it's not
norovirus.
Yeah, you're not going to be banned for life. And then, 2, I may hold you in the health lodge just to make sure. And you can do your activities, but then come back and I want to test you on day 2. Because sometimes they're saying that day 1 is not sensitive, day 2 you are. I just want to make the general population be as healthy as they can be and have no worries that we're holding on to populations that may be getting them sick. It's not going to happen. It didn't happen in the schools, and it's not going to happen at camp either. So
I like your spirit,
I
Becky.
think
It's
we're
going to be a
gonna be
great
fine.
summer.
it is. But
And Becky,
I
take
do
another
know-
minute to drive home just for the crowd, because I know it's passionate to you. How important is it for us to get those medical forms early?
Oh, it is so important. You've got to understand that not having the forms until I come to staff week means that in less than 2 days, I have to have reviewed 400 forms for the first 2 weeks. And it is impossible. I want to be able to have combed through your forms, found any problems, send you an email back. You now know what it is that you need to tweak and fix before you get back here. I also have made out your med forms, the medication sheets. I have made out your buddy tags. I have made out everything. So when you come through that health lodge, it is hi, bye, and out the door. And that's the way you like it. And that's the way I like it. And then just being able to speak to the people who have medications, just about how we do our program. And it goes very, very quick. We've tweaked this to perfection. And it's just last year, because of the way we did Zoom meetings and stuff, there was just too much and too little time to do it in. So that's why this extra tweakage. You can get me the forms early, we can deal with them, and then you go smoothly through that health lodge with no delay. And that's what we want.
Well
I wanna
said,
add something.
Becky.
I want to add something too, if it's okay, Danny and Becky. If unit leaders, if you have a medical form that you're waiting on something, it's a doctor to fill out Part D if they have the inhaler, EpiPen or whatever. If you're ready to rock and roll with 99% of the rest of your unit, include that partially completed med form with your packet, get it into Becky's hands, get it in Nurse Reagan's hands. But put a note on it and say, we know this is coming. We'll get it to you ASAP. I've also gotten a couple of questions from some folks in the chat, and hopefully I get this answer right, Becky. Kids that are maybe their med form from last year is expiring. It's this month, right? They have a med form that they can only get after a certain date. They have an appointment scheduled, but maybe in one instance, a scout is currently quarantining because they have COVID. They now can't get that medical appointment. Get us something. Get us the form from last year. Get us the thing that says, yeah, they tested positive, and we'll work with you and the unit leader and the family.
And put a sticky note on it. Communicate. Not the wicked witch. I really want this to go really well. I just want, if I know that you're communicating, you're working on a piece, that's fine. It's like I can work with the rest of the form, and in the state that it is, it's just that seeing them for the first time when you're walking into camp is especially if the person has medications and things like that, is a lot of last minute work. And it just can clog. If one person does it, the next person does it, the next person does it. It can clog the whole flow of how the health lodge works. And then I don't get to eat, and then I get cranky. So
Don't want that.
That's just.
All right, we're gonna
No.
don't go anywhere, Becky. We're gonna have questions, I'm sure, in the chat, but let's keep going and wrap it up. Stay in touch. Social media, we're
Okay.
here, and our emails. Let's go to the chat and see what we got. We're coming up now on an active meeting for 37 minutes. You see the emails. We will do a better job in the next 2 weeks because we're shifting gears to camp. But let's go to the chat. What do you have for us, Grace?
Oh, I have a whole lot. So be rapid fire. You ready?
Yes.
Awesome. Office hours for dropping off med forms at camp instead of mailing. How are they supposed to get med forms to camp?
They should mail them in an envelope to camp. If they want to drive by camp and drop them off, they can do that. They could leave them in the Rangers front porch. They could leave them with us at the ad building. If camp's not open, leave them in the Rangers front porch on the Rangers house across from the administration building. Next up.
How and when do we submit merit badge request forms?
So you can do a lot with merit badge request forms. You could submit them now, but if they're going to change, wait. It does not matter when you give them to us. Will, correct me if I'm wrong, but you could have them submitted that Sunday, and it does not affect the program office in a negative way.
That is correct.
Correct.
You can submit them whenever you want. My email up here is a great place to submit them as well. Just email them to me, program@camp.wanocksett.org.
But
Do
real
that whenever
quick,
you please.
as an old program director, would you prefer, if they're going to change, to just have them wait and submit it at the end and submit it one time?
Yeah, if you yes, I'd rather one submission.
So.
But if a kid changes their mind Sunday night, that's gonna happen.
It's going to happen. But what we don't want is 3 emails with 3 different rosters. So you don't get anything by submitting it early, except for you get it off your to-do list. If it's going to change, submit it once, submit it late. Not late, like right before camp. All right, keep going, Grace.
Is there a deadline to add a camper?
No. Well, we want campers. So get a med form, get them to camp. And if they're a crossover or there's any reason why they should get early bird, ask for early bird.
What is the cost for troop photos? And do you know how much they cost per picture?
I believe we told folks it was 13 in February. We have not met with the photographer, but he agreed to do it. We haven't talked about prices, but I'm sure it's going to go up. I think 13 is up $1 from last year. 13 is the price this year.
Is Wednesday night family barbecue happening?
It is not. It's not because of COVID. We last year, the adult leaders from across the 7 weeks, their input was that they did not miss parent night. I did not miss it as a program, but I do miss the idea of the alumni being able to come to camp and see it. So we will talk more about it and we'll have some focus groups this summer, but this year, no parent night. Keep going.
Already, in the last leaders meeting, there was a suggestion to order t-shirts to the Trading Post website before camp started. Where is that and when does that open?
Not happening. It was one of the few things we could not get done. We've been meeting with our vendors. We had to go to a whole new type of shirt this year. The supply lines for Gildan cotton shirts are not good right now. So we couldn't guarantee it and we didn't want to do something halfway. Collins, do you agree with all that?
Yep.
Okay. Keep going.
That being said, we've ordered a lot of t-shirts.
Yes, bring your resources to camp because we have super soft cotton t-shirts and we've probably got, for 1,250 campers, we've probably ordered 1,400. So please, we'll have plenty of different shirts and plenty of different sizes in the Trading Post, but we won't do a pre-order. I apologize that we said we were going to do it. It just didn't happen. Grace, while you're queuing up the next one, I saw a question in the chat. It was private to me. Why, if you are a registered adult and you've had a background check, does New Hampshire make us do a second one? So it's only for those people who live in New Hampshire. New Hampshire has a law that all people going to camp must have a background check. Their law and our requirements for the BSA simply don't line up. They don't care, but we do an internal check. They want their form. So this is the state of New Hampshire that you should be upset with. It's only for those folks who have lived in New Hampshire or currently live in New Hampshire. That one was a private chat to me. What do you have?
Do adults need a form for an EpiPen?
No.
No,
No.
Someone was
I want to
asking
know
for,
about it. I'd
No.
like to know about it. Just look it
Yeah,
on
you
your
can
thing,
tell
but you
Becky,
don't need it
tell
'cause you're gonna
Becky
get-
about it, but you don't need that special form.
someone was asking for clarification on page 8 on the health form, Mass versus New Hampshire. The page 8 was for Massachusetts. It was for Camp Split Rock and Treasure Valley, I believe.
Yeah. So if you're attending Wanocksett, you primarily need to only worry about parts A, B, and C. If the scout has an EpiPen or an inhaler, they need to fill out part D, New Hampshire. You can ignore part D, Massachusetts. The request was from our council risk management committee to combine the forms this year because there were scouts that were going between Treasure Valley and Camp Wanocksett provisionally, and they would show up at Camp Wanocksett without the EpiPen inhaler form if they had one, and there were scouts that would show up at Treasure Valley without the medication authorization form if they had medications. So simply ignore part D, MA if you are coming to Camp Wanocksett.
Good explanation.
What is the cost for pizzas?
Oof, that's a tough one. I'd say 11, 12, 12. Collins, what was it last year?
You're catching me on something I don't know off the top of my head, which is
It's either 11, 12, 12 or 12, 13, 13, but I'm thinking it's going to be 11, 12, 12. That means 11 for cheese, 12 for the vegetarian and the meat pizza. But the Wanocksett House of Pizza will be up and running, and we'll be delivering pizza to the sites after the campfire on Friday. And all of those resources, after we pay for the pizza boxes and the dough, go to the staff morale fund. So cool.
Can a scout bring their brother or sister if a parent is there?
Can a what?
Can a scout bring their brother or sister if a parent is there?
That's an individual email to the camp director where we can have a discussion. So if a parent has to come to camp as an adult leader and they have a sibling, we talk about those things. But not ideal, but it can be talked about on an individual basis.
Will there be emails to all the troops to verify they're paid before they go to camp, or is that something they do when they get there?
No, if they're paid up, no, we'll do that through the financial check-in process with Collins. So money is important, but getting your campsite and your merit badges is more important. So we'll settle up with you at the pre-camp meeting when you set up with Collins, or when you arrive at camp, we'll figure it out. And if you've said you've paid and we don't see a check, we'll figure it out while you're at camp. We're not going to shake you down for it. We'll figure it all out.
Does a registration made last year count as an initial payment?
Collins, I'm going to let you try to decipher that one.
I'm assuming that's about the $100 unit reservation fee. That does go as a credit onto your account this year, but if you're going to roll that into a 2023 reservation, then that $100 is a wash. But again, unit financials are very different for every single unit. So my suggestion to everybody is do one of the pre-camp signups, do a check-in with me, do a Zoom meeting at your convenience. I did them at all hours last year, during lunch breaks, at night after dinner, and we'll work through it. Right, communication is key.
Are camperships available for those out of council?
Yes. If there's a need, let us know and we can work with you as much as possible.
And also on the topic of camperships, the forum at this point has closed and people are wondering how they submit camperships if they need to.
I thought Andrew reopened it the other day. Andrew's working on it probably right now. It will be reopened if need be.
How do we sign up scouts for the first year camper supplemental program?
Upon arrival at camp through the program director. So are you meaning like Brownsea? So if your kid's not doing merit badges, on the merit badge sign up sheet, you would have a scout sign up for first block tenderfoot. So you just note that on the merit badge selection. He's not doing a merit badge, instead he's doing tenderfoot first block. Then next block he might be working on, a badge. So you just note it on the merit badge.
I think it was also some confusion. I got that question directly, and it was I got it when I was explaining the supplemental. So I just think there was some confusion. The supplemental is just like a 6-page document I made to illustrate all the programs that we have that are available for first-year campers. You don't sign up for it as one big first-year camper program for the whole week. You can sign up for a block of tenderfoot if you'd like, a block of second class, another age-appropriate merit badge, and then it also illustrates all of the free time programs that we have that are appropriate for that age group. But as a whole, it's not one big thing you sign up for.
No, that's even better than what I said. And also basically, Bill, what I'm understanding is they can share this with their parents so that they show the parents what's going on for those 11-year-olds.
Yeah.
Okay, let's keep going, Grace. Good questions tonight, folks.
For payments, do you accept credit cards or only cash and checks?
We prefer cash and checks, but I think they'll take a credit card at camp. I'm sorry,
This
we
is
prefer
a-
checks. Checks is probably the best way to do it, but credit cards at camp if you need to.
A question I got that I wasn't sure about, but can we still come to camp 2 weeks before the meeting in person? Or for the meeting in person? I think that's about, when is the adult leaders meeting?
So we have, we'll show you, the adult leaders meetings are in the leaders guide. I believe there's a page that shows the dates. We'll get that in a minute, maybe. We can get someone working on that. If you want to come to camp and watch us do the Zoom, you're welcome to. That's an option for you. So you want to come to camp, we're going to be on a Zoom. We'll be in the ad building probably. And you can watch the Zoom and we can answer all your private questions after. But the pre-camp meetings were just dropped in the chat. Keep going, Grace. Great questions.
Do scouts planning to participate in the triathlon need to bring their own bike, or can they bring their own bike?
They can bring them, they don't need to.
I'll also say if scouts do bring their own bikes, we don't allow bike riding throughout camp. So it has to be used at programs where the bike is necessary, the triathlon, the bike ride to Kimball's. but they are not supposed to be riding their bike around camp.
That's a great point. We have several new troops that would have called Stora their home, and those troops used to bike around Camp Stora. We're a smaller, condensed camp, so we don't ride bikes around camp. We also have public roads rolling through us. Keep going, Grace.
Are woodworking merit badge kits sold in the trading post?
Yeah, yes.
Is there an early check-in? I'm assuming they have to reach out if they want to check in earlier than the normal time.
No, we reach out to you. So we'll look at the list, we'll look at the sites, and we'll look at what's best for check-in. But we'll reach out to you, and that would be something we talk about at the pre-camp meeting.
Is there a flexibility for scout rank requirements for some of the merit badges, such as cooking if you're not first class?
So you have to be, one of the requirements is to be first class. So we can award a partial, but we can't award the full merit badge. Every time I've gone to camp school or talked to other program directors about this, I don't have the capacity, the authorization to change merit badge requirements. So it'd be best to meet those requirements before you sign up for those, have those scouts sign up for those badges. There's always next year.
In the past, camp has been good with refunds due to sickness. Is that the same this year?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Give me 1 second. Will there be singing in the dining hall?
Yes.
Okay, there have been parents and other adult leaders who have mentioned they would like to come for a day to visit. Is this permitted this year at all?
Well, if you have a parent who's coming up as a troop leader for the day, sign him in as a troop leader for the day. But what we don't want is the program to be interrupted by families rolling through. So if you have an adult who's acting as a troop leader, sure, come to camp, eat meals in the dining hall, see what's going on, but it is not an opportunity to visit and just to drop in. Am I being too harsh, Collins?
No, you're spot on with my thoughts too. We don't want to impact the Scouts program.
It's really important to give these kids 6 days at camp with their friends, moving around, and a break from mom and dad. If mom and dad are trained as adult leaders and they understand the balance between the camper and the scout and the parenting, cool. But other than that, it's not, if there's a birthday and someone wants to roll in and drop off a cake and a pizza and give a hug and, a visit, quick hit, fine. But you can also give him the cake when he gets home or she gets home. Next.
Anyone, this is just a question that I got, but anyone who has a roster or merit badge selection, who do they send that to in an email?
The program director or the assistant program director.
Yeah, you can also send it to info@camp.wanocksett.org. That goes to everybody on that screen right there.
Good point, Collins.
They're asking med forms for week 1 should go to camp or to Kelly Stickney.
They should go to
Camp.
camp. Don't send any med forms to council. No forms to council. Med forms to camp, camp, camp.
Pre-camp meeting is in person or at on Zoom?
It's a
Virtual.
Zoom. It's a Zoom, but if you must drive to camp and watch us do the Zoom, you can.
Are families allowed to accompany Scout to check-in? Last year was only 1 parent.
Well, the parents don't go through the health lodge anyways, unless there's a medical, challenge with a certain type of medication. If a parent needs to see the nurse, we absolutely would always let them. But the recommendation of the camp director is have the parents drop off, help with a little bit of nesting, and then get them on the road and let's get the day started. But that's up to your own troop interpretation. But if you were to listen to me, it would be drop off, spend a little money in the trading post, maybe help roll out the sleeping bag and hit the road.
Are troops allowed to do swim tests before they go to camp and then have them count?
No, we do our own swim checks. There's some laws about that in Massachusetts that we as a council adopted for both in-state and out-of-state. So Massachusetts wants you to do it where you swim. And as a Massachusetts council, Collins, I think we have adopted that strict policy, correct?
Correct.
Will masks be required anywhere on, at camp?
You can bring them and wear them, but we're not requiring them.
Will there be a tap out ceremony for the
I
OA?
will take this in conjunction with the lodge advisor.
There will be a call out ceremony.
Okay, great.
There'll be a call out ceremony to recognize scouts who have been elected by their peers to the Order of the Arrow. The call out ceremony that we, I think, have all seen for a number of years with the Gishishuman dance team. It's a casualty of the pandemic, unfortunately. There's no dance team. We've tried very hard to try to get them back involved, but the youth just don't want to do it. So they are using the national call out ceremony, and they did a fantastic job last year doing it. And that's what we'll be doing again this year.
Cool.
You did a better job than that with me. Good job.
There'll still be barbecue on Wednesday, even though there's no parents.
Yes.
Will you be able to save some shirts for week 7?
Yes. And give me the name of who said that. Put it in the chat privately.
I'll scroll back and look at the end.
Yeah.
Is there a minimum number of scouts for a troop for any given badge?
Just to clarify for all those folks who are new, last year we had a plethora of shirts week 7. We did not have belts, but we had a big order of shirts week 7. So maybe we didn't have your size, but we'll do a better job this year making sure we have your size week 7. All right, sorry,
You're
Grace,
doing a
keep going.
great job.
Great.
Thank
great.
you. Next one, is there a minimum number of scouts from a troop for any given badge, i.e. at least 2?
No,
Does the buddy system mean that scouts need a partner for any merit badge selection or just for the program area?
no. If you have a scout going to the waterfront and someone going to handicraft, they walk together and they split at the field. We want to promote the buddy system, but we're not obsessed with it. We just simply, when you're walking, a distance from camp, you're with a buddy and you work with as close as you can to the 2 program areas, but you don't have to line them up like that.
Is week 7 pickup going to be early due to the staff field trip?
No,
That's
it's not
typically week 5 or 6,
yeah.
not
So
week
we-
7. And we don't have a specific plan for the staff field trip yet, so we don't know exactly which week might be early, which week might not be, and we will communicate that when we get closer.
Will, just for the 55 people who don't know what we're talking about, one of the weekends in the year, we ask the troops to have their kids go home an hour to an hour and a half early on Saturday so that we load the staff up on a coach bus and bring them to the beach. Not sure if we're doing that trip this year, but if we do it, it's often week 5 or 6 at the end of the week. It's a good question from somebody who knows camp pretty well, but to be determined.
Does Camp Wanocksett recognize the Spirit of Adventure Council Adventure card?
One more time, Grace, on that.
Sorry.
So I was reading my chat. We will make sure that we have lots of Camp Wanocksett belts this year. They went off the shelf very quickly last year, so we'll work on that troop on Acton. Ask me the question again that you were just asking, Grace.
Yep, no problem. Does Camp Wanocksett recognize the Spirit of Adventure Council Adventure card?
Email me with a specific question from your troop, and if you're a new troop from Spirit of Adventure, we can work with you a little bit, but we do not recognize them. No, but if you're a new troop and you're trying us for the first time, shoot me an email.
If a scout has any medications they will take at camp, is there any additional forms they must submit besides parts A, B, and C?
Collins, Becky.
No, it's all built into Part B. The doctor needs to sign off on it as with the doctor's orders, and the medication has some pretty specific requirements as far as it needs to be in the original container. It needs to be for that scout. The order has to match the prescription bottle. There's a checklist. I'm scrolling through the leader's guide right now. There's a list of requirements in the leader's guide. about that. I will find the page number and I'll reference it in a moment. Did I get that right, Becky?
Yes, you did. The only other consideration is if the scout is going to be taking like over-the-counter medication, that's covered under the over-the-counter medication signature piece that the parent does. And so you may show up in camp that doesn't have a doctor's order one, but everything else that's a prescription medication, as he said it before, in the original bottle, orders match what's on the paper. I don't care if the order is something that has in the doctor's pre-made out sheet, as long as there's an order and it's there. I can't pass out medications if it's not that way. That's the state of New Hampshire.
Well said, and the Boy Scouts.
Mhm.
What do you got, Grace?
There's scouts who may be sensitive to loud sounds. Will the cannon be used?
Yes. We'll work with them on when the cannon is being used, and if we need to issue them headphones or earmuffs, we can. It will be used very sparingly.
Is there any suggestions for Weebo 2 crossovers if they should take 1 or 2 sessions of Brown C?
1. Neville, you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I was gonna say I think it's based on the rank advancement you do in your unit and how active you are at that. But if I was signing any scout up for program activities, I would do 1 thing of Brown C and 2 badges that emphasize fun. Your first year at camp should all be about fun. Your second and third years should get you advanced through ranks. There's 7 years to get to Eagle. You don't got to do it all in the first 2.
Another question is, will there be tables outside the dining hall again? It was great for scouts who are sensitive to the noise.
Yes.
Are families invited to closing ceremony on Saturday morning?
Yes. Make sure they visit the trading post.
Anyone else has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, but that's the end of my list so far.
I have a question for folks. This question is for those adults who have been coming to camp for multiple years. Is this meeting in June, for those of you who've been coming for a long time, is this meeting in June overkill or is this helpful? So this is, I know if you're a new troop, absolutely this must be helpful, but if you've been coming to camp, is this meeting overkill or is it good? Shoot me a chat so I can see the responses.
Can we make a poll?
I don't know how to do that very quickly. Collins, I'm sure it does.
No, we're good, Will. Just have them check Stanny.
I do like polls though. Next question from the chat. I saw one overkill, track that one down later. So kidding. 1 to 5, how concerned are your parents about kids coming to camp in COVID? What is the theme in your troop? So our 5 is like they're very nervous and 1 not so much. Where are the parents right now? I'm a public school teacher and I feel like where we are, we still talk about it every day, but we're over the hurdle. Okay, good. That's good because I mean, it does not seem like we have a lot of restrictions. The only caveat, and I don't think this will happen because I know New Hampshire and I know they want to make a lot of money from camps this summer. They want all the parents to come visit and spend money in the individual markets on the way. The state of New Hampshire could drop regulations on us at any time. 2 years ago, they dropped them in June and they were very restrictive and we had to pull the plug on the 2020 season. But I don't see that happening. I don't see a lot of regulations. Collins, give me a thumbs up. Do you agree with that? So
I agree.
that as soon as we heard anything from New Hampshire, we would call another meeting with you and we'd bring you into the loop. I do not believe that's going to happen.
No,
Anything
not from
else,
anything
Grace?
Yes. Are goggles allowed in swim checks? It was inconsistent last year and some kids need them.
Yes. Yes, and we'll make a note of that. And Grace, will you let the waterfront director know?
Sure.
So yes, last year there was a comment made, and my wife, who's a senior aquatics person, she talked about it. There were some kids, their fear of the water, it helped them over the hurdle. There's no reason why they can't do a swim check with them.
If the troops don't have a trailer and the van serves as a trailer, can it remain on their site?
So if they want a trailer, can they bring it to their site? Let
If
us know.
they don't have a trailer, but their van, like they have like a van or a car that serves as a trailer, can they keep it there?
That sounds like an interesting question. Shoot me an email or ask me at the pre-camp meeting. We don't like the idea of vehicles parked in camp. But if there's a special reason why you have to have your van with all of your stuff in it, you're not doing patrol cooking, you're eating in the dining hall, but we can make it work probably.
Will slides from this meeting be available?
Yes.
Um,
Will, where do we drop those?
I will send out an email to everyone who attended.
Nice,
And we'll upload a copy of the video as well to our YouTube channel.
nice.
Someone else asked, or the same person asked about a trailer is okay to park in their site? Question mark.
Yes, we have to put the trailer in a place that someone won't maim themselves on the trailer hitch that they can't see at night when it's dark. So we typically put a trash barrel where the trailer hitch is so that when they walk at night, they don't destroy themselves. So we want to make sure they're in a safe location.
That's all I got.
Hey, folks, this was a great meeting. I hope we didn't go too fast, and I hope we weren't too sarcastic with you about the belts and t-shirts. It's going to be a great summer. We're going to be back with 126 troops. Shake those troops and make sure that if there's a kid on the cusp, try to get them to come to camp, and let's have them get out and get 6 days away from social media and computers and have a good time and be safe up at the Thorndike. So let's be safe these next couple of weeks, and I'll see you at camp.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for coming.